Hey there, welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about how to overcome the top 3 most common fears when it comes to building your own online business. I'm Louisa Joe, and at this point I've helped thousands of students build their own online coaching and course-based businesses and transition from employee to entrepreneur. And after having helped so many students, I can tell you I see the same top 3 fears over and over, and that's what we're going to cover today. So the number one fear that I see all the time holds people back from moving forward in building their own businesses is the fear of looking stupid, of putting themselves out there, right? Think about it. How do you feel right now if you're just starting out, or when you first started out? How did you feel about writing a social media post, about posting a video of yourself, right? It feels really, really scary. And there are lots of reasons for that. But let me just walk you through how I overcame this fear and how I've helped a lot of students do so as well. So I'm a massive introvert. And a few years ago, back when I was starting my first online business, I had no experience putting myself out there at all. So it was the scariest thing. In fact, when I was recording my first ever video, this was before any sort of live stream service, I just had to sit down in front of my computer, hit record, and then I was so nervous by the end of my video that I was sweating through all my clothing, and I couldn't even look at my video. I just had to upload it onto YouTube and just post it, because otherwise I knew I would overthink it and I would judge myself and I would be too scared to put my video out there. And it was the same thing when I shared my first ever social media post. This was back in a Facebook group, and I was sharing about, I don't even remember. At the time, I was building my business in digital advertising, which was what my job was at the time. And I don't even remember what I said. It was this long, really detailed, to be honest, kind of boring, even though it was really valuable post about how to set up your page for digital advertising. And again, it was really scary to put it out there. I remember coming back and being super obsessed about, has anyone commented? Not a lot of people did, just so you know. And just wondering, okay, do people think I'm stupid? Why is nobody responding? Am I not cut out for this? And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because you're going to see with all of these 3 fears that we cover, that there are a few key steps, and they're the same for addressing all 3 of these fears. The first step is to realize that you are not alone in feeling this fear. Pretty much everybody goes through these fears, and the difference between people who succeed and people who don't is simply, it's not that people who succeed don't have these fears. It's that the people who succeed find a way to act, to move forward despite those fears. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So the first step starts with realizing that you are not alone. Now, the second step that I have found incredibly helpful. So many people talk about overcoming your fears. Here's the thing. Your fears aren't something that you can just, in many cases, just conquer and be done with, especially a really big fear like putting yourself out there. And so what I personally found to be way more powerful, and what I've seen work really well for a lot of my students, is not to think about how can I overcome this fear and not feel it. Right? That's not it. But to instead be thinking through the motivation behind what you want to accomplish. So, for example, when I wanted to build my first online business, it was because I wanted to be able to leave my 9-to-5 job. And that was a really powerful motivation for me, because not only did I want to do something that gave me more fulfillment and freedom and income, I also had other reasons for wanting to build that business, to be able to spend more time with my loved ones, to be in control of what I was doing, and to do something that felt a lot more meaningful and fulfilling to me. And so to be able to do that, I knew I needed to be able to overcome my fears and put myself out there. And so what I did was I really sat myself down and talked myself through this in a way where I thought, okay, here are my fears of putting myself out there, of looking stupid, of all of that. And on the other hand, here's this motivation that I have where I want to change my life. I want to change the lives of everyone around me, my loved ones, and build this business for all of these reasons. Which is more important to me? Are my dreams more important to me? Or is my fear of putting myself out there, having someone I don't know think I'm stupid or I look stupid because no one's responding, right? What do I care more about? And ultimately, it came down to I chose my dreams. I chose those motivations over my fears. And that gave me the encouragement I needed to act despite my fears and move forward. And so what I really want you to think about for each of these fears that we're going to discuss is, what is this fear, right? Fear of putting yourself out there. Maybe it's because you're afraid of looking stupid or it just feels really scary. Okay, totally get it. But what's the motivation behind why you would want to do that? What's your end goal? And when it comes down to it, which one is more important? And when you think through those two things, then I want you to just take a step back and really ask yourself, which is more important, my dreams or my fears? Which one am I going to let win? And use that to guide you in taking action through your fears and not worrying about overcoming them or eliminating them. So that's step number 2. Now, step number 3 is to realize that each of the fears that we're going to go over is actually just a skill that you can build. So the skill of putting yourself out there, right? Of writing a post that gets a lot of engagement, of sharing a really great video or live stream, all of that just comes down to basically practice. So if you go to any of my videos, if you go to anybody's video library on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever, and you go back to all the way to their first videos, you will see a massive difference in their video presence, in the way they speak, and their own confidence. And if you just go through the videos over time, what you'll see is improvement and progress as they become more comfortable with their skills, as they gain their skills, as they become more confident, as they have more experience. And it's a very natural progression that happens literally to everyone. So I promise you're not going to be the exception where for some reason you don't get better at this. And so what that means is if you view it as a skill, not as, oh, I can never be like that person because they must have been naturally born with it. Once you understand, no, nobody's born with skills like this, right? Everybody has to develop it as a skill. Once you realize that, you stop thinking, oh, I could never be like that person. You start realizing, okay, where did they start? How did they improve? How did they hone this skill? And how can I do the same? And it becomes a lot less scary and intangible to you as well, so that you can absolutely do this too. So that's fear number 1 and the 3 steps to overcome it. Now, fear number 2, which is also incredibly common, is the fear of getting rejected, right? You put yourself out there, and that can look in so many forms. You put yourself out there, you put a post, you put a piece of content, and nobody responds. Nobody even likes it or engages or answers a question that you asked. All the way to maybe you're pitching a publication to be interviewed or to write an article for them, and they never respond, or they respond and say, no, this is not a good fit. All the way to the ultimate kind of business rejection, where you are asking a client for a sale, speaking to them on a sales call, and they say, no, I can't afford you, or no, thank you, or whatever their reason is for rejecting you. So rejection can come in many forms, and that feels really, really scary. And that was a really big one for me. I remember once when I was starting out, this was a few years ago, again, in my digital advertising business. At that time, I was pretty established in my career. I had a really great salary. I was really good at what I did, and I was compensated well. And in fact, I was a manager, managing a team of people and dealing with really big clients and really big revenue. So I knew what I was doing. However, I didn't have any social proof online. There weren't articles about me and all the things I had accomplished in my corporate career that people could find. And to be honest, I just look kind of young. So once I had a potential client get on a Skype video call with me, and we talked, and she said, I could never hire you because you look like you're 12. And oh, that really hit home. I just obsessed about that for days, and I think even weeks, where I thought, am I really going to be able to succeed because everyone thinks I'm too young? People don't realize how much experience I have. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to get no after no. And that was actually a series, one no out of a series of about 30 no's in a row that I got. So it was really devastating. However, how I was able to shift it around was I stopped thinking about it as a personal rejection, right? And I started thinking, okay, so if I'm taking this no as feedback, how do I improve from it? And so what I did was I did a few things. First, I really started thinking about every rejection in a different way. I started realizing, all right, so if I'm getting a no, that doesn't mean necessarily that a few things. It doesn't mean that it's no for forever. If someone is telling me no right now, that doesn't mean they're not going to work with me or want to work with me in the future. And in fact, I'll tell you, I've had students who have been through, for example, my signature, my flagship program is Employed Entrepreneur Live, and I launch that once a year. And I've had people who joined me maybe like 3 years ago, found me 3 years ago, and didn't join for that launch. They didn't join 2 years ago. They didn't join 1 year ago, but they joined this year, right? And so it really is just a no right now does not mean a no for forever. Maybe the time is not right for them. Maybe they don't feel like you're the right person for them yet, but you've got to play the long game. And so that was a really key shift for me, where I stopped thinking about, oh my gosh, each no means that I'm not going to be able to build the business I want. Instead, I started thinking, okay, so this no means no right now, but I'm in this business for the long game. I'm in it for life. And so that doesn't necessarily mean this is such a bad thing. And that made a massive shift in my ability to persist through every single no that I got. The second thing I did was like I mentioned earlier, stopped thinking about them really personally. I stopped thinking about, okay, if someone says no to me, it's because there's something wrong with me. Instead, I started thinking about, okay, why would someone say no? And how can I improve what I'm saying, what I'm talking about, the content I'm sharing, or even my offer, so that that no changes into a yes, right? And so the way I did that was, for example, when someone came to me and said, oh, this is not a good fit for me because of this reason. I would examine that reason and then decide, okay, is this something that I can improve right now on my offer and incorporate into it to make it more valuable? Or if someone would say something like, I don't see the value of what you're offering, then I knew, okay, obviously, this is very valuable because I'm getting paid a really great salary in my job to do it. And I have other clients who love paying me and think I'm underpriced. So what's going on is that this person is not seeing the value of what I have to offer. So how can I improve my emails, my social media posts, my content to teach my audience about the value of what it is that I have to offer? And so what I did was I became a lot more scientific about each rejection that I got so that I could improve everything I was doing and learn from it. And guess what? When you do that, your no's become less and less. So that was the second thing I did that was incredibly powerful. Now, the third and final thing I did was I stopped viewing each person I was speaking with as, oh my gosh, just a potential client. I really hope you say yes. I mean, of course, I hope they would say yes and want to work with me. But I started viewing them as people. And this might sound simple and like it's common sense because we're all good people, most of us, who just want to give value and do the right thing. But when you're starting out in your business, when you're scared, when you're not supported, when you're not confident, and you're really thinking, I just need some clients to show me that I can do this, it puts you in a different mindset. And so I fell into that mindset where I was thinking, okay, this person, I really hope this person says yes, and really thinking about them as numbers and clients instead of as people with feelings and dreams and goals and thoughts. And so when I reminded myself of that and shifted back, what happened was I was able to focus more on building relationships with my audience, because ultimately you have to have the right offer and all of that. But when you have that as a baseline, people buy based on the relationship that they have with you. And so what I was able to do was to get to this point where I was really just being super focused on not just, okay, let me make a sale, but instead on thinking through, what can I do to really see this, learn more about this person, to build that relationship. And sometimes that was as simple as if someone said no on a sales call, I said, okay, that's totally fine, get it. And then I would check in with them. I would follow up with them. And it wouldn't be necessarily to try and make a sale. It would be, hey, we talked about this. I was reading this article and thought of you, or I created this video and thought of you, wanted to share this with you. Something super simple to continue establishing that relationship. And you know what happened was that because I did that, my community started seeing me as a person as well and started feeling that relationship with me. So it does go both ways. And because of that, like we talked about earlier, those no's that were initial no's came back and said, hey, I've been following you for a while now. I'm loving your content. I feel like I've really established a relationship with you. I'd love to work with you. And so those were the three things I did to turn that fear around. So that's the second fear. Now, the third fear is also a really, really common and a really big one. And that is the fear of failure. Fear that if you do this and put your heart and soul into it, maybe you still fail. Maybe you invest in this course or this program, or maybe you try this for a while and you don't get any results. So then you're out money, you're out time, energy, you've put yourself out there and you have nothing to show for it. And this, I will tell you, this alone kept me basically stuck and not doing anything for about 2 years, where I would go to my job and I would think how nice it would be to have my own business. But I would come home, I would be really tired, and I would think, I don't even know what to do. I don't know if it's gonna be worth it anyways, like if there's a point to writing this post. And so, you know what, I'll wait until tomorrow. And what was really going on was that fear of failure. And so what I did to really change this around is, thankfully, my background is in engineering. And so I've been trained to really look at everything in a very systematic, methodical way. And so I really sat down and thought about it. What is failure? Why would I fail? I broke down the system into, okay, what are the potential points of failure and what I need to do? And the way I broke it down was like this. How can I get a business idea that people actually want to pay for? How can I get my first client? How can I get my second, my third, all the way up to like my fifth client? And then how can I create a system to continue consistently getting clients every month and to scale that into a true business? Those were the main points of like failure, of success that I focused on. And once I identified those points, which are the same for you as well, I really sat down and thought about, okay, so if something isn't working, if I'm not getting my first client, if I'm not getting my second, what are the points that would contribute to it, right? And so I thought about, okay, if I'm not getting my first client, is it because my offer is not good? Is it because I'm not building the right relationships? I'm not showing my value? All of those things. I came up with all of the potential things that might be going on. Maybe I'm not looking for them in the right place. So a lot of the same things that are absolutely applicable to you as well. And then what I did was I just created a massive spreadsheet to measure all of these things. And what that allowed me to do was break it down kind of like a science project. You know those science projects that we had to do in like middle school and high school? Exact same thing. I broke it down into the different variables and the different pieces so that if something didn't work, I could go back and check, okay, so was I searching in the right place? Was I speaking to enough people? Or did I only make my offer to one person? Was my offer not good? And really just identifying where the points of breakage were so that if something didn't work, and there were a lot of times when that didn't. I shared with you earlier how I got like 30 no's in a row. And there were a lot of those times, or when I would run a campaign and it wouldn't work as well, lots and lots of rejections. I would always come back to this tracker and identify, okay, what happened, what broke, where was it broken, and how can I fix it? And so what that allowed me to do was stop thinking about each failure as a sign that, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I meant to fail. But as just like a breaking point with my science experiment where I knew the variables and I could fix it. And once you shift that mindset around to realize that building a business is not magic, it's a system, it's like a science experiment, there are step-by-steps. And if you identify the pieces and measure them and identify how to improve them and where you need to be to hit each of the goals, then it becomes about, okay, problem solving, getting creative, getting resourceful, doing the things that you have to do as an entrepreneur anyways, and letting go of any desperation or fear that you're not going to succeed because of that. And so that way, what that allowed me to do is each time I failed, go back to my tracker, improve it, and then bit by bit, basically realize failure, quote unquote, is just part of the process. When things don't work, you go back, you fix it. And what that means is that ultimately the only way you really fail is if you don't do that and you just give up. But if you do, then you're not going to have any of the dream business or life or any of the things that we talked about. And so what it really comes down to is what I shared at the very beginning of this video, where you have to think about your fears and your motivations and which matters more to you. Because I think ultimately what you're going to find is you want your dreams way more than you want to let your fears rule you. You can probably hear the ambulance in the background. I'm in New York, so this is a part of everyday life all the time. And so that's really what it comes down to. Again, those are the top 3 fears that I've seen over and over, both for myself and at this point with thousands of students. And we've covered a lot of really powerful step-by-step ways for you to work through them. I want you to, again, notice I didn't say overcome them, because fears don't just disappear. You just take action despite them, and then they start receding. And so hopefully you found this really helpful. And if you have, I've got another really great video for you that I think you're going to love. So go ahead and make sure you watch it by clicking on the video, which should be right over there. So that's it for today, and I will see you next time.